नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं नरों चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम्बुदीरहे। नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। श्रीमद् भगवद गीता, second chapter, verse number 70. आपूर्यमानम् अचलप्रतिष्ठम् समुद्रमापा प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् तद्वत् कामयं प्रविशन्ति सर्वे शशान्तमाप्नोति न कामकामी। आपूर्यमानम् अचलप्रविष्टम् समुद्रमापा प्रविशन्ति यद्वत् प्रविशन्ति सर्वे शशान्तमाप्नोति न कामकामी। Apurymanam, always being filled. Achala pratishtam, steadily situated. Samudram, the ocean. Apaha, waters. Pravishanti, enter. Yadvat, yes. Tadvat, so. Kamaha, desires. Yam, unto whom. Pravishanti, enter. Sarve, all. Saha, that person. Shantim, peace. Apnoti, achieves. Na, not. Kamakami, one who desires to fulfill desires. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation: a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strives to satisfy such desires. Please repeat the translation. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace, and not the man who strive to satisfy such desires. Purport. Although the vast ocean is always filled with water, it is always, especially during the rainy season, being filled with much more water. But the ocean remains the same, steady. It is not agitated, nor does it cross beyond the limit of its brink. This is also true of a person fixed in Krishna consciousness. As long as one has the material body, the demands of the body for sense gratification will continue. The devotee, however, is not disturbed by such desires because of his fullness. A Krishna conscious man is not in need of anything because the Lord fulfills all his material necessities. Therefore, he is like the ocean, always full in himself. Desires may come to him like the waters of the rivers that flow into the ocean, but he is steady in his activities. And he is not even slightly disturbed by desires for sense gratification. That is the proof of a Krishna conscious man. One who has lost all inclinations for material sense gratification, although the desires are present, because he remains satisfied in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, he can remain steady like the ocean and therefore enjoy full peace. Others, however, who want to fulfill desires even up to the limit of liberation, what to speak of material success, never attain peace. The fruit workers, the salvationists, and also the yogis who are after mystic powers are all unhappy because of unfulfilled desires. But the person in Krishna consciousness is happy in the service of the Lord and he has no desires to be fulfilled. In fact, he does not even desire liberation from the so-called material bondage. The devotees of Krishna have no material desires and therefore they are in perfect peace. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Mena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadanki Sapadankitam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghudanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Vancha Kalpatarupyasya Krupa Sindhubha Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we are in second chapter, 70th sloka, almost end of the chapter. Before that, I would just give a brief talk about the first chapter and how, then a little bit about the second chapter. So what is the first verse of Bhagavad Gita? Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta yutsamaha mamaka pandava seva kima kurvata sanjaya. I'll just read the translation so that Dhritarashtra said, O Sanjaya, after my sons and the sons of Pandu assembled in the place of pilgrimage at Kurukshetra, desiring to fight, what did they do? Just the Mahabharata war was about to start. Just before a day of Mahabharata war, Srila Vyasadeva came to Hastinapura and meets Dhritarashtra. He says, my dear Dhritarashtra, you please give up the idea of fighting with the Pandavas. If you don't take back your idea of fighting, all your sons are going to be annihilated by the will of providence. Then Dhritarashtra said, what you are saying is right, but my son Duryodhana, he would not listen to me. Then Vyasadeva asked Dhritarashtra, we know that Dhritarashtra is blind. If you would like to witness the war, I would give you special eyes. Then Dhritarashtra said, no, I don't want eyes now. I don't want to be blind only. Because I cannot see all my relatives, my dear ones, are going to be died in the battlefield. I don't want to see that. Then Dhritarashtra requested Srila Vyasadeva, my secretary Sanjaya is there. Please give him the vision, special vision, so that he could see the battlefield and he could explain it to me. So then Vyasadeva blessed Sanjaya with the special eyes. Like we are watching television. Cricket match is happening. Let's say in Australia, some match is happening. We can see from here through television. So those days, he gave a special vision so that what's happening on the battlefield. It's like a television, but it's a subtle kind of thing. The television which we are seeing, it's like, it has a monitor and connections and cables. It's very gross. Those days, they have subtle signs. He could sit in Hastinapura, he could see what's happening in the battlefield. Then Sanjay started explaining that he says that both the parties, Pandavas and Kauravas, gathered in the battlefield. Here Dhritarashtra knows that Dharmakshetra is a place of pilgrimage. Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. Kurukshetra is a place of pilgrimage. If you see in Bhagavad Gita 18th chapter, Krishna says there are 5 factors for a successful action. And one of them is place, Adhisthanam. Place also decides our success. It's one of the factors. So Dharmakshetra, Kurukshetra. So Kurukshetra is a pilgrimage place. And in the pilgrimage place, definitely those who are following Dharma, they have an upper hand. And Pandava's sons, Yudhishthira Maharaj and Arjun, they're all pious, they follow Dharma. So obviously, they are going to be victorious. So still he is asking Sanjaya, what did they do after assembling the battlefield? Now Sanjaya started describing that by seeing the parties, Duryodhana went to his teacher Dronacharya and he started speaking. Shloka number 7 to shloka number 11, he describes about both the parties of Pandavas and the Kauravas. From 12th onwards, we see before the war starts, they blew the conch shells. If you see, when we do the Arati, just before the Arati, we blow the conch shell, right? So similarly, before the war, both the parties started blowing the conch shells. When Krishna, what is Krishna's conch shell? What is the name of Krishna's conch shell? Panchajanya, yeah. So Panchajanya is a transcendental conch shell. When Krishna blew his conch shell, all the hearts of the Kauravas, Duryodhan and his brothers, got shattered. Because it's a transcendental sound. After that, Arjuna asked Krishna to place his chariot so that he can see who is on the opposite party. Krishna is the Rishikesha, and he is seated in everyone's heart as Paramatma. Krishna knew the heart of Arjuna. He placed the chariot right in front of the Bhishma and Dronacharya. By seeing Bhishma and Dronacharya, Arjuna felt compassion. If you see in the first chapter, there are some symptoms of given like so Arjuna is seeing fathers, grandfathers, teachers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, well-wishers, and brothers, sons, grandsons, and friends. By seeing them, he felt compassion. Then after Arjuna's limbs of body started quivering, his mouth drying up, and his hair standing on end. Then his skin is burning. Arjuna overwhelmed with compassion, and all his body is trembling. And finally, his Gandiva slipping from his hand. Arjuna's favorite weapon is Gandiva. Once Yudhishthira Maharaj commented about Gandiva, jokingly commented. Then Arjuna became very angry. He started chasing Yudhishthira Maharaj. And later for that offense, he had to, during the exile time, forest exile time, he repented for the offense. So that Gandiva is slipping from his hand, Arjuna's hand. Why it is happening? Because of the bodily identification. Because of the bodily attachment. We are all spirit souls. We have nothing to do with the body, material body, but we are thinking that this is our material body. If you see in Bhagavatam, there is a beautiful example is given about the identification with the body and mind. If you see a sun or moon, the reflection of sun or moon in the water, and water will be quivering. Let us say slowly it will be quivering. So when you see the reflection of the sun and moon in the water, you see that both that moon also quivering along with the water. But what is the reality? Nothing is happening to moon. Moon is there in its position. It's nicely situated in its position. But when we look in the water, the shadow of the moon, it appears to be like quivering. You take one stone and throw it on that reflection of the moon. Is anything going to happen to the moon? No. Similarly, your shadow is there in the water. Your reflection is in the water. Somebody throws a stone on that reflection. Do you feel the pain? No. Similarly, our Atma is nothing to do with the material body and the material mind. Atma is eternal, transcendental. Through false ego, Atma is identifying with the material body and the material mind. This is called bodily conception. So Arjuna also felt bodily compassion. They are my relatives, they are my grandfathers, they are my teachers, they are my sons, grandsons, how can they kill them? He felt compassion. Then Arjuna is giving some reasons to Krishna. If I kill them, I'll get sin. Even though they are aggressors, aggressors means in our Dharma Shastra it says, one who gives poison is an aggressor, and one who sets fire to others' house is an aggressor, and one who attacks with deadly weapons, and one who plunders riches, and one who occupies another's land, and one who kidnaps another's wife. So what Dharma Shastra says? Atatayinaha mayantam hanya deva avicharayan. Somebody kills these atatayinas, they will not get sin. As per the Dharma Shastra, it is righteous to kill these aggressors. But here Arjuna is feeling that if I kill these aggressors, I will get sin. So Arjuna got confused about what is dharma, what is adharma, because of the material identification, bodily identification. And he is telling, they are ready to kill us, they are ready to fight with us because of greediness. Why should we kill? Why should we fight with them? And then Arjuna is telling, if the family, if they all died in the battlefield, then our dynasty will be destructed. Because of the destruction of the dynasty, family tradition will be vanquished. What is the family traditions? Like offering pindas to the Pitrus, performing some rituals. These are all religious activities. So when these people will die, rest of the family involved in irreligion. And because of irreligion, what happens? Women get polluted. And as per our Shastra, women are less intelligent. So they should be protected always. When they are kids, they should be protected by the parents. When they grow and marry, they should be protected by the husband. When they become old, they should be protected by the sons. If they all die in the battlefield, what will happen to the women? They will get corrupted. And then what happens? Their chastity will go away. And because of that, what happens? They give birth to children and they can cause destruction. Then Arjuna go on giving some more reasons. He says that whoever destroys the family traditions, they will always dwell in hell. And because of the destruction of the family traditions, unwanted population will rise in the society. And Arjuna is, one more reason he is giving, even though they are ready to fight with me, I would like to unarm, unresist, and let them come and kill me. And finally he set his bow aside, he sat down and saying, Krishna, I will not fight. This is the first chapter. In the second chapter, then some more reasons he gave, and Krishna chastised Arjuna, how have these impurities come upon you? You are such an Aryan. Then finally, Arjuna was unable to come out of this situation, so he surrendered to Krishna. So in the second chapter, 11th shloka to 30th shloka, Krishna talks about Sankhya philosophy. What is the cause of Arjuna's lamentation? Because of the bodily identification. He is identifying himself with the body. So to remove that ignorance, Krishna spoke about the Sankhya philosophy. What is Sankhya philosophy? Sankhya philosophy means analytical study of body and mind and soul. From 31st to 37, he talks about the duties of a Kshatriya. It's called Sakama Karma. Duties of a prescribed duties of a Kshatriya. Then from 38, 39 to 52, he talks about, 53, he talks about Nishkama Karma, that is Buddhi Yoga. Then 53rd and 54, that Krishna concludes about a person who is a yogi. Then Arjuna asks a question in 55, how does a self-realized person, how he speaks, how he walks? Then Krishna, from 56, he starts explain that It's called Symptoms of a Self-Realized Soul, from Shloka 56 to 71. Symptoms of a Self-Realized Soul. So today's shloka, it is the 70th one. In this shloka, Krishna is telling to Arjuna how to respond to the sense objects. He is telling, as long as the material body is there, the desires will also be there. A person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace. So this is a secret Krishna is giving, how to be peaceful. There is a bird in the ocean, and that bird picked up one fish. It was about to eat. Then a lot of crows started attacking this bird. Then bird is running here and there, here and there, here and there. Crows are following him. Then he's just started contemplating. Why suddenly so many crows started attacking me? Then he realized that he's holding a fish in his mouth. Cows wanted to take away that fish, so they're trying to attack him. Then this bird, he realized that as long as I keep the fish in my mouth, they're going to come and attack me. So what he did, he thrown out the fish and he flew away. Then the crow stopped chasing him. So in this example, if you see the bird, it wanted to eat some fish. Similarly, when the devotees, they go after sense gratification, what happens? Anxiety will chase you. Anxiety, hankering, sometimes lamentation, dissatisfaction. These things will chase us. There is another instance. There is a devotee. He is always engaged in his bhajan and is very blissful. If you see the devotees generally, they're very happy and blissful. So if you go to pubs and all, if you see, you just observe, they'll be dancing like this and like this. And artificially, they create some psychic movements in their brain. And they pose as if they are really happy. They look at each other's face and dancing like this and do like that. So that's not the actual real happiness. So real happiness, you can see that by devotees, when you see, we'll come to know what is real happiness. So this devotee is very poor, but he always chants Govinda, Govinda and Hare Krishna mantra. He's very blissful. Next to him, his house, there is a neighbor who is very rich fellow. He'll always in anxiety. How to double my money, how to make more profits, how to accumulate more and more money. Like that, he will always be thinking. But sometimes he keeps observing. Generally, neighbors observe what the others are doing. So he always see this poor devotee is always blissful. And one day he had, he has undergone so much anxiety through business and all. He goes to his priest and tells Guruji that बहुत stress हो रहा है. So how to come out of that? You see, next to my house, there is a poor devotee. He's always blissful. Why I'm not blissful? I have so much money. Then the priest says, okay, you do one thing. You take out some one bag filled with the gold coins, and you go and throw into that poor devotee's house. So he takes the gold coins and night time he throws into the poor man's house. Morning, this poor devotee, he gets up early in the morning and he started doing bhajan, and he came outside of the home. He saw one big, bag is there. Then he opened the bag and saw that gold coins are there. Then he looked around. He got little surprised how it came. And silently he take the bag to inside his house and started counting. Then slowly his mind thinking about how to save money, where to save this money, how to spend this money. Somebody will come and take away this money. So his thoughts changed. Before that, he is very simple devotee, always chanting Govinda, Govinda, is very blissful. Suddenly, after seeing these gold coins, his consciousness changed. And whole night, day and night, is thinking about those gold coins only. Like that, 1 week passed away. Then this rich fellow, who is his neighbor, he is observing and is feeling very happy. Oh, see, he also now got embarrassed. And this poor devotee, devotee is always protected by Krishna. Sometimes they may come across Maya, but devotees are protected by Krishna. So after a week passed away, this poor devotee is sleeping and contemplating, what had happened to me? Before that I was so blissful, I was so happy. Nicely I was doing my bhajan. Suddenly what happened to me? Then he realized that because of the gold coins, he developed greediness. And he developed material desires. He wanted to enjoy materially. He has forgotten Krishna. Then he took away all the gold coins. He goes to one river and throw it in the river. Can we do that if we get some gold coins? Do you have that much faith in Krishna? Do you have much that guts to throw the gold coins into the river? Of course, devotees, they'll use for Krishna's service. So he goes there to the river and throw into the river. Then he comes back and again he started his bhajan. He's very blissful. Then this neighbor who is observing this, he started feeling, how come again this poor devotee is blissful? This many days he is also morose. Then he goes and asks that poor devotee, my dear friend, I saw you were in anxiety for the past 1 week. What had happened suddenly? You are very blissful. What had happened? May I know? Then he says, I am very much happy in doing bhajan. One poor fellow, he came and thrown some gold coins into my house, and it created disturbance in my devotional life. So I realized that by the mercy of Lord Krishna, I realized that this is hampering my devotional service. So much anxiety is there. So because of that reason, I took all the gold coins and thrown into the river. Then this rich person, he goes to his priest, Guruji. He says, Guruji, now I understood that why this poor devotee is happy, now I came to know. So please guide me, so how I can start my devotional life. He also realized. So similarly, if you see in our devotee's life, like before, maybe 6 years before that, many years before we joined as a brahmachari ashram, almost 13 years, very close. So in the first 5 years or 6 years of my life, brahmachari life, I never knew what's happening outside. Completely absorbed in sadhana, service and reading like that. When later slowly they introduced Android mobiles or mobiles, for preaching purpose. So that time slowly, for preaching purpose we are using, but we are coming to know that what's happening outside, and we are trying to associate, subtly we are associating with the outside world. So this is called Asat Sangha. If you say nectar of instruction, Rupa Goswami instructs that Asat Sangha, unwanted association, non-devotee association. So we have to be very careful as devotees while using whatever the laptops or mobiles or tab. So we have to be conscious that we are not associating with the non-devotees. If anything is there for service purpose, we will use that much and we will try to control our usage. And here, a person who is not disturbed by the incessant flow of desires that enter like rivers into the ocean, which is ever being filled but is always still, can alone achieve peace. So this is very important. As long as the material body is there, desires will come. So devotees should be good enough to control their mind. Let us say you are watching a television. Some channel is coming. You don't like that channel. You switch over to the another channel. You don't like that. Then you go to other channel. You switch over to some other channel. Similarly, devotees should be good enough to change their thoughts. Let us say you are sitting, some material thoughts are coming, immediately should switch over your mind to from material thoughts to Krishna conscious thoughts. So how do we develop Krishna conscious thoughts? So our sadhana program is very, very important. So now we are seeing here that we are for the last in the second chapter from 56 to 72, if you see, Krishna is talking about the symptoms of a self-realized soul. So how do we attain that state? As a sadhakas, how do we attain that? So the most important thing is during our sadhana, for the sadhakas, is sadhana. Sadhana is a backbone of our spirituality. Currently, our mind is filled with the thoughts of materialism, rajoguna and tamoguna. So we have to purify our consciousness, purify our thoughts. So how do we purify our consciousness? We have to give oral reception to the transcendental sound, transcendental shabda. So right from the morning when you get up, right from the morning like Mangalarti until Bhagavatam class, until Prasadam, should completely absorb your mind in receiving the transcendental sound. Right from the Mangalarti you come. So when the Mangalarti is happening, you should hear that Mangalarti, Samsara Dhava. You have to nicely hear that slokas, and you should also know the meanings. While the singer is singing, you should nicely hear that. You repeat that with the meaning in the mind. So this creates your consciousness, transcendental consciousness will be injected into your mind, and nicely have the deities of darshan. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu it says, when you come and when you want to have the darshan of the deities, start from the lotus feet, then limbs, then navel, then thighs, then hands, and then lotus face. This is how we have to have the darshan of the Lord. So nicely we have the darshan of the Lord. And morning time, you don't think this devotee told to me like this, he told me like this, yesterday it happened like this. Don't think about anything. Just fix, try to hear the Shabda. Mangalarti prayers, then we have Tulsi Aarti, then Narsimha Aarti is there. All Kirtans nicely we hear, nicely participate. And Mangalarti time they'll be playing Mridanga and Kartal. So you try to fix your mind on that Shabda, transcendental Shabda, on the prayers. And like that you try to observe your consciousness. And morning time, max as much as possible, don't try to open the mobile or do something. Until Bhagavatam class, you try to avoid the contact with the mobiles as much as possible. For preaching's sake it is required, but make sure that how much it is required, that much you use 5 minutes, 10 minutes, immediately you come back and you focus on this. And again then darshana and japa time. So japa time you have to completely absorb in japa. Japa is not mainly do with not only with Hare chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Will be it's not like a parrot chanting. Prabhupada says we should not do our japa should not be like parrot. You go to parrot and you tell something, you tell parrot to repeat it will repeat it nicely. But parrot doesn't know what it means. It is not conscious about what you tell him. Simply it repeats. Similarly, our japa should not be like a parrot japa. So our japa should be with consciousness. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if you fix the mind for one mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So all words nicely you chanted and heard. That means your consciousness for that moment is fixed on Krishna. And again you go to the next beat, again you try to fix our mind on that. So like that if you do 108 times, your consciousness is fixed on that. Like that 16 malas you try to do. Similar like Bhagavatam class, Guru Puja time, Darshanarti, so like that you do. So we will end with here, now it's Aarti time. So we can take out some questions now. It's your time or it's Aarti? Can we take out some questions? Okay, so we'll end here. Anyhow, questions you can ask me personally. Yeah. So Grandraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Bhagavad Gita ki jai, Jadru Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Bol.